Have you ever wondered how prisons came to be? The history of the prison system is fascinating and complex, evolving over centuries from brutal punishment methods to the institutions we see today. The concept of imprisonment as a form of punishment is relatively recent in human history. In ancient times, societies often used exile, corporal punishment, or even execution to deal with criminals. For example, in ancient Greece and Rome, offenders were typically punished through physical means or banished from their communities. Prisons, if they existed, were primarily used to detain people awaiting trial or punishment, not as a punishment in themselves. The idea of using imprisonment as a penalty began to take shape in medieval Europe. During this period, dungeons and castle towers were often used to hold prisoners. However, these early jails were usually dark, filthy, and overcrowded. Punishment still focused more on physical suffering, such as whipping or mutilation, rather than confinement. A significant shift occurred in the 16th and 17th centuries, with the rise of the modern state and changes in attitudes toward crime and punishment. During this time, European countries began to establish workhouses and houses of correction. These institutions aimed to reform offenders through hard labor and strict discipline. The idea was that idleness led to crime, so making prisoners work would instill a sense of order and productivity. One of the first modern prisons was the Walnut Street Jail in Philadelphia, established in 1790. It marked a new approach to imprisonment, focusing on solitary confinement and moral reform. Prisoners were kept in individual cells and given work to do in isolation, with the belief that solitude would lead to penitence and rehabilitation. This system, known as the Pennsylvania system, greatly influenced prison design and philosophy in the United States and Europe. However, the practice of solitary confinement soon revealed significant drawbacks. Prisoners often suffered from severe mental health issues due to prolonged isolation. In response, another model, known as the Auburn system, emerged in the early 19th century. This system, first implemented at Auburn Prison in New York, allowed prisoners to work together during the day, but required them to remain silent and confined to individual cells at night. The Auburn system emphasized discipline and order, while avoiding the harmful effects of complete isolation. The 19th century also saw the rise of the penitentiary movement. Reformers like John Howard and Elizabeth Fry advocated for more humane treatment of prisoners, better living conditions, and opportunities for education and rehabilitation. Their efforts led to the establishment of penitentiaries, which aimed to correct and reform rather than simply punish. In the 20th century, the focus of the prison system continued to evolve. The progressive era brought about changes that emphasized rehabilitation and the potential for reintegration into society. Programs for education, vocational training, and psychological counseling became more common. However, this period also saw the expansion of the prison population and the construction of larger, more secure facilities. In recent decades, the prison system has faced numerous challenges and criticisms. The United States, in particular, has one of the highest incarceration rates in the world. As of 2020, over 2 million people were incarcerated in American prisons and jails. This has raised concerns about overcrowding, the conditions of confinement, and the effectiveness of the prison system in reducing crime and rehabilitating offenders. Issues such as racial disparities in sentencing, the use of private prisons, and the treatment of mentally ill inmates have sparked significant debate and calls for reform. Many experts argue that alternative approaches such as restorative justice and community-based programs could be more effective in addressing the root causes of crime and reducing recidivism. In summary, the history of the prison system reflects changing attitudes toward crime, punishment, and rehabilitation. From ancient times to the present day, the evolution of prisons has been shaped by societal values, economic factors, and ongoing debates about justice and human rights. Understanding this history helps us appreciate the complexities of the prison system and the ongoing efforts to improve it.